The Kuna are an indigenous tribe in Central America. They've lived for centuries in Panama on the San Blas Islands. The islands are pristine, separated from the Panama mainland, which ensures the Kuna some sense of security and isolation from the modern culture of Latin America. They live an independent lifestyle. With no monetary system in place, they fish and farm for food, and they trade with each other when it's necessary. Being on islands has limited their exposure to modern technology and development. This way of life has guaranteed them the preservation of their culture. In 1945, the Kuna were granted autonomy from the Panama government. They are now led by Salios, who are political and spiritual leaders of the Kuna communities. Around 2000, though, the Kuna's culture began to change. Due to the beauty of the San Blas Islands, which are also known as Kunayala, which means Kuna land, it has become a popular location for tourism. Hotels, restaurants, golf courses, and spas have sprung up across the archipelago, flocking tourists to revel in the natural beauty and the unique culture that the Kuna provide. This commercialization of Kuna land and culture is severely harming the indigenous population and their autonomy. In James Howe's essay, The Kuna of Panama: Continuing Threats to Land and Autonomy, he argues that there are serious ongoing threats and a weakness in the Kuna's structure due to the tourism industry. One of the threats, according to Howe, is the proximity to the Colombian drug wars. Kunayala used to be Colombian territory, and the war has on occasion spread into the neighboring countries. There also remains the issue of climate change. If the environment keeps changing, it can limit the Kuna's accessibility to food, clean water, as well as safety away from the elements. Among all those threats to the Kuna, Howe says that the tourism is by far the worst. The tourism industry began by hiring the Kuna to work for them. They work in the hotels, golf shops, spas, restaurants, or they are in charge of running the motorboat shuttle services between islands and the mainland. This dependence of the Kuna for staffing leads to the incorporation of a monetary system on the islands. Not only do the Kuna stop with farming and fishing on the islands, but they have been incorporated into a monetary system which leads to them putting more and more focus on earning money. The hotels use the Kuna as advertising. They have such a unique and beautiful culture that it appeals to people wanting to escape the bustle and stress of living in a big city. The hotels and inns are styled to be rustic, luxurious. They use the traditional Kuna styling on the outside to seem like it fits with the Kuna villages, but the amenities are so luxurious that the Kuna wouldn't even be allowed to stay there, only just work there. New York Times journalist Ethan Todris Whitehill has visited the islands twice, once in 1984 and again in 2008. Both times on family vacations to relax, enjoy the beauty of the beaches and rainforests, and to appreciate the colorful Kuna culture. Todris Whitehill noticed on the second trip a change in the Kuna people. The first time he went, there were only a couple hotels, and it was quiet and peaceful. The beaches were clean. When he interacted with the local indigenous people, they spoke no Spanish and definitely no English. On his second trip, though, all of the Kuna he encountered spoke Spanish fluently. Their language was a defining factor of their autonomy before. On the second trip, he also noticed that they were wearing Western clothing, riding motorboats instead of traditional fishing boats, and they were selling their molas in bulk at stores and hotels to the tourists. The Kuna are known for their molas, which are brightly colored, woven cloths that are used in their clothing. Once the tourism industry began to expand, the mola became a symbol and a souvenir of the island. Instead of creating molas in their spare time like before, the Kuna had become dependent on money, in need what they could make from producing the molas. It used to be that women and men would both farm and fish, and when the day's work was done, the women would weave molas as relaxation to connect with their villages. Now women spend their entire day making molas to sell to all the tourists. They have created cooperatives where all the women in a town go to make molas to have their husbands sell. The men see this as an opportunity to be able to make even more money. So with the molas that their wives produced, they go off to Panama City for work, selling them there. This also impacts their life. Now women are raising the family alone while the men go off to the big cities. This puts more and more stress on the family and will change the way that the kids grow up. Instead of becoming involved in agriculture and fishing like in the past, they will need to find jobs to financially take care of their families. And instead of relishing their history and their ancestry, they will be focusing on the modern technology and the future. While they all shift away from past lifestyles of agriculture, it limits the Kuna's accessibility to food. Some people may see this as a good thing, development in a place where there was none, but there is a consequence. The Kuna were previously known as the most impressive indigenous group with the most autonomy, so much that all the other indigenous groups in South America admired the way they preserved their culture and kept independent. Now that the Kuna are losing their way of life and their identity, it appears as though there will be little hope for the other groups to remain independent when the whole world is trying to commercialize and to develop.